Saddened, but not surprised. That's the way a former Durham Region police officer sums up his reaction to the disintegrating situation in Iraq. Avery Haynes now at the international mission that was supposed to keep Iraq stable. Avery.
Well, thank you, Gordon. That was a mission that was essentially impossible. The idea was to try to get cops from all around the world to teach the Iraqi security forces just how to keep their country safe when the U.S. pulled out. But all hopes of stability have disappeared this past week with the surge of militant Sunni Islamists who are part of an al-Qaeda offshoot called ISIS, now considered to be the most dangerous jihadist group in the world. These are unverified images of a country in peril. Those men in handcuffs on the ground are Iraqi security forces, the very people who are supposed to be protecting the country. The men with the guns, they are Islamic militants who are cutting a brutal swath across a troubled country now teetering on a cliff of chaos.
This is a small medal that the international peacekeepers were presented with.
Worlds away in a midtown Toronto apartment, this man more than feels their pain. In some ways, he wears it.
Looking at it realistically, we didn't change a thing. You know, we didn't. We went there, we gave it our best, but I don't think it changed a thing.
Paul Nadeau was a sergeant with Durham Police when he was part of a mission that was almost impossible.
Our purpose was really to prepare the police service to be a police service in a war country. Not an easy task.
182 hectares in the desert in Jordan, the Joint International Police Training Center recruited cops from 16 nations to train a new Iraqi police force so they could keep the peace when the U.S. pulled out.
3,000 cadets every 8 weeks. I was there for a full year.
And even then, back in 2005, Paul Nadeau saw signs of things to come. Militants issuing and following through on extreme threats to stop Iraqi forces from getting that foreign training.
Their family would be threatened with death. And the way that they were sending these cautions, these warnings, they were throwing leaflets with these warnings printed on them around the person's home.
And in a handful of cases, Nadeau had to deliver heartbreaking news.
Those occasions, I think there were about 4 or 5 of them, where the entire family had been slaughtered. It was a weight on my shoulders and in my heart to think that I would have to deliver this news.
And in the unraveling country where the lines between good and evil are blurred, Nadeau has no way of knowing when looking at these images whether he might have trained those Iraqi soldiers on the ground or the militants holding guns to their heads.
I had an Iraqi colonel working in the office across from me, and he came to me and says, many of these cadets here are both terrorists and police officers. They were playing both sides of, law and terrorism without a second thought.
Paul Nadeau says what he's witnessing saddens but doesn't surprise him. You knew that there was going to be problems when the U.S. fully pulled out. They knew there was going to be a fully problem. This isn't a surprise to anyone who is involved.
It was not a surprise to anyone, no. When you pull out, things are just going to get to where they were before, because there's still the Sunnis, there's still the Shiites, there's still extremism.
That religious extremism has not infiltrated here. This is an area of Toronto known as Little Baghdad. And George Yako, a Christian Iraqi Canadian who runs this center, says the Sunni-Shia divide that is buckling his war-scarred country does not exist here.
We are all joined together. We work together. We are brothers, sisters together.
And tomorrow I want to take you into that area of Toronto called Little Baghdad to meet some of the Iraqi Canadians who are now bracing. They've been through the First World, the Second War, and now they're bracing for the possibility
and
of
as we were discussing, as they move farther south, they're closer to shutting off the major oil reserves that Iraq has, and most of it is now in the south, and this is what the international community is worried about.
Well, and if you talk to any of the Iraqi Canadians who live here, they'll say once again, as we've heard through the other two attacks, that this is again about oil.
It's all about the oil.
It's all about the oil. So if you want to reach out to me, I'd love to hear from you. I am on Twitter @CityAvery.
The Inside Story runs every Tuesday and Thursday on City News. All segments are up on our website, citynews.ca.